All right, we have Lara Carter with us here today, and I'm super, super excited to have you. She's doing some awesome things for the allergy community. So I would love to just start off about hearing your story, what allergies you have, how you got diagnosed, and then what you're doing now.
Okay, well, I have been gluten-free for 4 years now. I had battled with stomach issues for years and was told, you have IBS, you have this, you have that. Turns out I have a gluten sensitivity. And also, my youngest son has eczema, psoriasis, and stomach issues as well as asthma. So he has to be gluten-free as well. And I had been on television for a number of years hosting cooking shows and things like that. And I took an entire year off, revamped family favorite recipes so that we didn't have to give anything up. And so over that time, I wrote the first cookbook, which just came out in spring of 2019 that I did. And I wanted to go refined sugar free too, just to help keep blood sugar levels in check. And so over the last 4 years, I have done cooking appearances as well as television shows, living the gluten-free lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. It's not something you're going to do for a little while and dabble in it. You have to live this way. And I also do refined sugar-free, and I do not have a dairy issue, but for my latest cookbook, which just came out in the fall, was all baking, and I did go the extra mile and go dairy-free on that because I have worked with a lot of people that are dairy-free. And I teach cooking classes. I host the television show. Like I said, I've written the 2 cookbooks. I do a lot of consulting with people who, when they find out they have a food allergy or someone they love has a food allergy, how to deal with it. How do you prepare a home if you have family coming in that has to be gluten-free? Or how do you start this lifestyle? You've just been diagnosed and you don't know where to start. You've got to purge and figuring things out. Helping people understand labels. People don't think about where, for us in particular that have to be gluten-free, where all gluten is. I mean, you can grab a salad dressing, you can grab a taco seasoning. It's in your makeup, it's in your beauty products, it's in so many things. People, their mind automatically goes to bread and cereal and pasta, but they don't know about all the other things, and they don't know about cross-contamination, and it's a learning process, and it can be very troublesome waters, and you can have a lot of mishaps and end up sick and things like that. So and then I've worked with several doctors over the years, with helping guide patients, and again teaching the cooking classes. I've even had doctors attend my cooking classes, which was a lot of fun. No pressure having a doctor sit there in your cooking class. And then also, helping different restaurants and people like that want to incorporate these type of recipes and have them be good, finding products they can use in their restaurants that I've already tested. I know they're fantastic, and hey, you can put this on your menu and customers can go in there and eat, because that is so difficult, just navigating whatever your food allergy is. Oh, I want to go out for a nice dinner. Remember when we could do that prior to COVID? But yeah, I mean, just being able to go do that, and not to mention traveling. I mean, I have had to fly coast to coast, Canada, you name it, all over with my job over in the last 4 years. And you put me in an airport and it's like, oh, great, what am I going to eat? Or you get on the airplane for 4 hours and they're not bringing food, but you have to pack everything because they're going to they're going to offer you things you can't have. So I think for me, it's been a combination of not only learning from me and my family, but wanting to take it to the next level and see who all I could help. And when I opened that door, it was just amazing how many people were like, yes, I need this, I need this. And finally, after 4 years of having television go, no, there's not enough big enough audience for people that have food allergies. Oh, yes, there is. And we finally have someone that's listening. And so that is where I am right now, as my team and I are on hold due to COVID, but ready to launch the first gluten-free, refined sugar-free, and dairy-free cooking show. And then we're also going to be incorporating other food allergies as well. Those 3 will be the dominant ones, but also doing vegan options, or whatever the different ones. We'll go through lots of different ones so that people, no matter who they are, they can leave that show and know they can make some of the things in there, or give them substitutions if I do it one way, but say, hey, if you have this or you're allergic to that, incorporate this instead.
Yeah, I love that you're doing all that for the allergy community. That is like so unbelievably important. And specifically touching on that restaurant piece of things, you modifying those dishes for restaurants, helping them like figure out what good options are. What has your experience been with that in going into a restaurant that like didn't really know beforehand how to cater to these allergies or what to do with different cross contact procedures and things like that.
Well, one of the things that I think has been the most interesting is the eagerness. I mean, the different people that see it in their industry, and they know that they're losing patrons. And what was one of the things that I found was very interesting is one of the people that I work with, their son ended up with severe food allergies. So they were like, wow, our own child can't eat at our restaurant because he was diagnosed with having different food allergies. And just coming up with things, okay, based on the type of restaurant you are, where do we go with this? If you're like a burger and pizza joint type place, let's figure out, you can take your classic, if you've got some signature pizza, okay, you can take that, still use it, but the toppings have to go on this type of crust, and this is how you're going to have to use a different oven. You're going to have to, make sure that you're not putting it in an oven right after you've put one that's got gluten in it, and talking about the ways of keeping that safe. And that's very, very long conversations that you have, and then they have to turn around and educate their staff or bring, somebody like me in to talk about that. And then also creating those menus where the people know, okay, you have the symbols out beside it. You have the gluten-free symbol, you have the vegan symbol, you have the dairy-free, you have whatever it happens to be, where they know if they order your signature salad, say you have a wonderful, amazing salad that you've put together, but we can't just assume that your dressing is gluten-free. And talking about incorporating more fresh ingredients as well. Finding those salad dressings that are really good, but you can make it as a house-made dressing. It's something specialty to you, but everyone knows that it's gluten, dairy, soy, vegan, whatever it happens to be. And I think that that's, one of the most exciting things is getting the awareness. Your bigger chains will still do some of that, but I think getting the small business, the mom and pop type restaurants where they can bring those people in, because if you don't live in a big city where you have tons of chains, that's what you end up with in smaller communities. And that's where a lot of times you won't find those options. You just eat at home. You don't even bother going out because there won't be anything on the menu.
Right, 100%, which is what we're trying to target with MacroMenu as well, as like those mom and pops, because you want to go to your local joint, you want to go get that local food, but like you're just so scared to try it because you don't have any information about it or knowledge of any training that they've done, that it's like really, really hard to know if that's even like a safe option to try.
Right. Well, one of the restaurants that I've worked with the owner some here, as well as a Mexican restaurant that's here, and the lady that owns it, she was diagnosed with some health issues, and so she became very aware, and she came to some of my cooking classes. So we've had some really great conversations about, different things, because she wants the menu to be where she can enjoy her own food and all. And I think we're seeing more and more of it in the restaurant industry, and people wanting to accommodate. I know when I travel, airports are terrible. It's awful trying to find something to eat. But like when I've gone to bigger cities, like when prior to the pandemic, I've been in New York on numerous occasions, and the bigger cities that are just completely gluten free. You're safe when you walk in. But like in my hometown, we're less than 150,000 people, and you don't have this just standalone allergy-free restaurants. You don't have them. So you're going to have to do the picking and choosing and educate the people on how. You got to use a designated fryer. You got to use a designated this. You can't use the skillets that might be scraped and then put something else in there, and just all the different things like that. If you find people that really want to bring those patrons in, they're willing to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you talk about your eating out experience, like when you first got diagnosed, and not restaurants that you've personally worked with, but ones that you came upon that didn't have those processes in place? Like, what was it like to eat out for you when you first found out that you had to live this lifestyle?
Boring. Boring, because you are so worried, because if I get gluten in my body within 10 minutes, I swell up like an Oompa Loompa. I mean, it's just awful, and I'm sick feeling and everything else. And so when I would go out, it was a lot of question asking, and playing very safe choices. Boiled salmon, and it got to be very ugh, boring. And then that's when I started asking different people. one of the restaurants that I talked about earlier, he happens to have chicken wings is one of his big things. And I love a good chicken wing. Who doesn't? And I got him to do the research, and they have a designated fryer that is only for their chicken wings. They don't do they don't do French fries or anything, and it's just for their chicken wings. And he doesn't bread them or anything else. And the sauce that he puts on them, I got him to research it, and I got to see the list of ingredients on it, and they were gluten-free and all of that. So it was like kind of, navigating the waters gently. But with what I did, I'm very much a question asker anyway, so I didn't have any objections to going, hey, I need to know about this. But I think for me at first, it was very, very boring. I was afraid to step out of the boundaries, and then learn to ask a lot of the right questions. And it's always a challenge, but if you can get the people to take the time and designate those things on the menus, then it makes it so much easier. Or like what you're doing with the app, if I can just go on my phone and go, hey, I can go here and this is what I can eat. And oh my gosh, you're talking about so much easier. And especially here again, when you travel, if you learn the ones in your own hometown, okay, that's great. But then what happens when you go out of town? And then you also have a child that can't have it either. And, so.
Right, absolutely. Talking about that vision, what you're doing in combination with a resource that allows you to see an allergy menu, see the process that you even teach to the restaurant. How do you think that changed the eating out experience for people like us that have these medical issues?
Well, I think it would make all the difference in the world. I think it would bring the enjoyment of dining out back to all of us instead of being fearful, am I going to regret this dining experience in 30 minutes or tomorrow morning, or, am I going to grab my EpiPen? I mean, whatever happens to be, I think it would be huge that, parents, even if they don't have a food allergy, if you've got a child with a food allergy, especially a severe one, the fear of going, on vacation and going out to eat, who's going to get sick? But if you can pick up that phone, look at that app and go, okay, here's where we can go, and here's the menu choices, and you can plan ahead. Because living like this, it is a lot of planning ahead. You don't just wing anything. There is no winging it. You don't just fly by the seat of your pants. And I've also learned that a lot of times certain restaurants, something might be gluten-free in one, but in another part of the country, it's the same quote chain, but in a different part of the country, it's not gluten-free. So you have it here in XYZ town, and then you go to ABC town, and guess what? Theirs is not in a designated fryer, or it's not the same sauce or whatever. So it's a lot of guesswork and research.
Right. And I think that standardization is so important. MacroMenu is trying to create a standardized process around food allergies because, there's no training right now on it, really, besides people like you that are kind of just doing it with individual restaurants, which is amazing. But besides that, the training at one location could be entirely different from another location. So you might have an amazing experience in Denver, but then go somewhere in Texas and be they didn't even know what gluten was. So it's kind of crazy differentiation between that. So being able to have a process where, okay, I know that this was the steps that restaurant took because they're associated with this company, that would be crazy for feeling a sense of security when you go out to eat.
Absolutely. I think it would make all the difference in the world. And like I said, put the joy back into the dining out experience, taking the guesswork and taking the worry out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts on the thing we've talked about, or, the restaurant industry or food allergies, or what it's like to live with them?
Well, I think restaurants, of course, with everything that's happened, are hurting. And I hope that a lot of them are coming back. And I think another really good way to bring more people in is for more of these smaller restaurants to find ways of accommodating new diners. I think that will be very, very important. And I would really hope that the people that want to do this and incorporate these recipes and products into their restaurants will go the extra mile and take the time to learn. Get with someone in the industry that can help them make sure that they know what they're doing. All of their prep cooks and people that are in the back, they have those designated areas for meal prep, and that everyone can feel safe. And if they stay with the guidelines and commit to it, once they learn it, then it becomes secondhand like anything else they do. They just have to have that area and those trained people that handle it, and then it won't be any different than what they do with the other cooking that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important. Like you said, even though on the surface it may look like there's not a lot of allergy diners, there is a ridiculous amount of people being diagnosed with gut health issues, different autoimmunities, and that all affects your diet. And so being able to not only just like have food available, but actually cater to like people's medical issues is extremely important, because like you can have a gluten-free pizza, but if it's not on a separate pan and you don't use a separate slicer, then it's like, okay, you're taking away half of the community that actually needs it for a medical reason.
Exactly. And that's like one of the things that I do. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, why don't I just use gluten-free all-purpose flour? Or, my cookbook is, I use the alternative flours. And the reason for that is because I work with a lot of diabetics, and gluten-free all-purpose, yes, you're getting rid of the, you're getting rid of the gluten, and that's fine if that's all you care about. And by all means, do that if you want to. And I've had things that were just made with gluten-free all-purpose, but the majority of everything I do, I use the other alternative flours, almond flour, coconut flour, pecan flour, some of the other ones like that, because they don't cause the carb spike. So they help keep those blood sugar levels down. And that is what the diabetics need. And then there's a correlation, like you mentioned, with autoimmune diseases between celiac and diabetes and Hashimoto and rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, all the different things that people have, like I mentioned, gut issues or other medical issues. If we had something like this where you could look at it and know, okay, I can go, I can eat and have a great time and have no worries, it would be phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited for others to hear what you're doing, because I think it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you. I enjoyed being with you.